I think your voice matters way more than you think. And I'm speaking to me, but I'm also speaking to you right now. Because, thing is, look, I always had this problem growing up with speaking my mind, voicing my opinion, voicing my thoughts, a bit of, standing up for what I believe, or, looking out for me, or defending me, or, not letting people walk over me and all that. Or it was a girl where maybe I knew the answer to the question or a test, the question of something, but I wouldn't actually put my hand up and actually voice my opinion because I thought, hey, someone else will, or oh, it's just so obvious. Um, Obviously there were times that I didn't have an answer as well, but I'm mentioning this because I think we've all noticed how there's this political division and radicalization in this world today, and how now whatever you search for in social media, you just get, aka if you seek for right-wing content or left-wing content, you're gonna get that, right? And each side is gonna diminish each other and be like, oh my god, the libtards are idiots. Look at them with their stupid pronouns and their green hair. Oh my god, the right wings are faster. I can't say that word on YouTube. Are just stupid. And have horrible makeup and ugly and sexist and blah blah blah. And I'm not here to support either of those ideologies. I think when it comes to politics, we should be talking more about how this division is actually about keeping us behind. And I think it's obvious, but that's something I've learned. Sometimes you should say the obvious things, and not everyone knows or notices the obvious things, or maybe even has the privilege or ability to notice the noticeable things, Now, for example, we can all agree that the sky is blue, but if I were colorblind and I couldn't see blue, and I thought blue looks red, I wouldn't know how you perceive the word, right? And how, in most people's lives, the sky is actually blue. Even though it seemed obvious to you, I had no idea because I was colorblind. And I always saw it as red, and I thought it was actually red. Even though technically it's not even a color, it's just light technically, and there's the whole science behind it, but besides the point. I'm not sure if I was recording or not. How strange. Either way, so Madeline made this I didn't even finish the video. I only saw a couple of seconds of it. She basically saw the series called Adolescence, I think it's called, right? And I actually haven't watched it. I watched videos about it, and I got the summary of it here and there, and watched clips of it, right? But to give you a summary from what I know, the first episode starts by, I'm gonna skip it, I'm just gonna tell you. There's this 13-year-old boyish that kind of kills one of his classmates, that's a 13-year-old girl, and he actually doesn't feel much remorse about it, and he even has this scene where he says, I didn't do anything wrong. He doesn't say, oh, I didn't do it. He says, I didn't do anything wrong, aka meaning that he feels like he actually has not done anything wrong by stabbing his classmate 7 times because she rejected him or something like that, or she bullied him, but she didn't actually bully him. She just kind of called him out on his bad behavior, let's say. From what I can recall, I haven't actually watched the show. It's just from what I see on the internet and the clips that I've seen myself, right? You're more than welcome to go and look for yourself, right? But the idea is that this person or this young boys are kind of being fed, red pill content, red pill versus blue pill thing in internet slang, in the world, whatever, comes from the movie Matrix. So I think that was released in like 1999, in the 2000s, something like that. And the whole premise of the movie, and it's basically how this person is met with this decision at some point to take the red pill and actually know the truth, or the blue pill and just live in his comfortable life. You know. And in internet terms, red pill means more of a kind of a bit more misogynistic, alpha male, female male, because they use the terms female and male instead of, I don't know, woman and man, etc. And just kind of create this toxic environment of just toxic masculinity, I would say, to sum it up. And this just gives like this false ideas of what life is and how life should be lived and what the things mean and what women are and what men are and how they're supposed to act and how it's supposed to be and all of these things, you know, that you're supposed to actually just figure out on your own by living your own life. But you know, when you're exposed a young boy or just like any young person to these things before they actually have time for their own brains to develop and for them to actually live their lives and actually get the answers to this question, to actually just like even have the opportunity to come up with this question that we've all asked ourselves, right? Like, who am I? What am I doing? How's the world? How does how do relationship work, and etc. etc. Like, I don't even believe that they even get to the place where they actually even get to ask the questions, I don't think like in their own like human spiritual journey, life journey, and all that, because these are all questions that we ask ourselves as we grow up, but like they're children. And just this like horrendous people just tell them what to do, what to think, how to act, and it's just a lot of it is just, it's unfortunately rooted in misogyny a lot, which I mean, like, in our patriarchal system, obviously, unfortunately, there's a lot of misogyny in this world. We haven't actually achieved gender equality, and I feel like talking more about it, has more power to talking more about these things than we think, because people do take it for granted, and some people do actually think that we actually do have gender equality, things are fine, things are okay, but it is just not true. Obviously, I want to state that these cases do not represent all of humanity, all of age groups, or every single human being on the planet, and this is just like a case, and just I think that's we having some individuals, and it's worth talking about, because it is the future of the future generations, this generation that we're talking about, and it's just such a shame to see how the progress has been done by previous generations be erased, just because some dumbass with a mic got on the internet and just started stating his blatant, stupid statements, and they were mistaken as facts. Like, just because you have a mic, just because you have a camera, it doesn't mean that you're God. It doesn't mean that you know everything about the world. Frankly, I know that I don't, and thank God I know. I mean, anyone who's actually looked into philosophy or science will tell you them. No. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna make that distinction between philosophy, science, and human beings. No. I'm just stating that there was once a quote by a scientist that said, because I don't remember his name, apologies. There was just so much in this world that we do not know, and the more you learn, the more you realize that we don't know a lot. And that's something that these people who get on cameras and get on mics need to remember, because whatever, it just pissed me off, because I was gonna say like, oh, whatever the Bible tells you, but it's like, it's not even written in the Bible, it's just people who are trying to manipulate people and use religion as a way to do that, kind of being like, or like just blatantly lie, and they'd be like, oh, it's just biologically, men and women, women are supposed to stay at home and just bring children, and you are a man, and you need to be strong, and women should bow down to you and should cook and clean and have no, like, there's a shift in, from more commonly in America, where they do have like a right-wing president at the moment, where people are becoming more authoritarian and more conservative, which, being conservative, you know, like maybe being a conservative person, you know, not like politically ideology or whatever, I don't know, like being more modest, that's completely fine, etc. But there's this thing where like we're like people are going back to the outdated gender norms or just outdated modes of living, let's say. I mean, like, I don't not blame them, because I don't know, it's just like all this content, you know, being like, oh, be a trad wife, be a, you know, stay at home wife, have no dreams, you don't need a degree, just be pretty, depend on a man, you know. Why would you need to get a job? Why do you want financial independence? You know, all the stupid women wanted to work and now I have to get a job. Oh, you know, so sad. Like there's just some people that genuinely, like, you know, I genuinely need to, no, it's not just generally like some people, it's everyone. We need to collectively learn and remind ourselves, if we don't know, or just learn of what has actually happened throughout history, right? And with being a woman and the rights that we've earned and how far we still have to go. Because reality is that many women couldn't vote till like the 70s, and that's not a very long time ago. And we still have not elected enough women in positions of power, I would say. And let me just tell you that most wealth in the world is also owned by men. But even that, like, there's just like the gender inequality issues in every sector of the world is just, it's just there. It's omnipresent, you know? And it also just like transits to everything else. It feels just exhausting to be a woman. Because, you know, when I want to speak about my perspective and my opinion on this topic right now. Because when I saw it, I was just so, I feel disgusted, disappointed even more, because it's like, I've been noticing how the younger generation of boys, not always, but if they're not like the main character in adolescent, let's say, which I'm not watching a series, as I said, and all that, but I do see that thing, because it's like, I remember I went to this program abroad, and the boys on this program were actually kind of disgusting, and I just hated the way that they were speaking about us girls. Like, they were just kind of like objectifying us, saying like some weird things for no reason, not seeing us as humans. There was this instance where like this guy nearly took some pictures of this girl doing yoga, and I actually stopped him from doing that. But even that, like, him in his sick mind, thinking that that's somehow okay to do, and not thinking twice about just pulling his phone and trying to capture, a photo of, whoever girl with her girl group with their like yoga poses and whatever, and like it's just disgusting. There's just so much about it, because it's like, even looking back at it, because like I feel like there's so many things that have happened that I don't know, like, maybe because I am a person that always deals with a lot of things, and I always have like a lot on my plate, so I always manage, and I might not take everything, I just might not like fully comprehend some things and how serious they are, because it really goes deeper than that. Because like, imagine that the boys were so weird and they had such a weird treatment of us, and disgusting treatment of us, let's say, where like the organizers or facilitators, let's say, had to organize a gender equality workshop day, let's say, where they separate the boys and girls and just kind of try to teach boys how to treat women. And I just remember that, I remember how I heard they had this open question, like, oh, someone like older, boy that's like, who were facilitating and responsible for everything. I don't kind of like, ask us questions about how we treat women and all that, and just, gender equality and all that. And a guy literally just asked, like, how do you like treat girls? Like, how do you like speak to girls, or like, just how do you treat them, basically? It was gender equality, like, as brought, but he asked that, right? Because this is what we were hinting at, and it was because they were not like treating us, well, like being very nice about it. But also I don't want to over exaggerate, let's say. And like I remember like me and the girls talking about that, because it's like for us, they made this whole like they separated us from them, right? And for us, they did this like museum thing where like they put pictures and videos around the room of women who have marched for gender equality, for their rights, and who have even have lost their lives marching for them, or just have lost their lives due to the inequalities that we face every day. Like, women are obviously most likely to be human trafficked, sex trafficked, raped, murdered, victims of domestic abuse, etc., etc. And it just pains me to know that there's so many women who don't even have the right to speak their voice, or to even grab a camera and film this, like a video like this. Like, women in Afghanistan cannot even go to a park by themselves. Women cannot, have access to an education because they were born as girls. And every time like a man tells me to ever shut up, I just think to myself, in a world where like there are women, millions of women who can't actually speak, you tell me to shut up. In a world that has taught me to be silent, that to be a good person, to be perceived as proper, good, well-behaved girl, it is to don't speak, to be obedient. And how sometimes it's even praised. She's so quiet, she doesn't speak, I remember growing up, I was quiet. I never spoke. Like, the message always growing up at school was to just shut the fuck up, always. To never express your opinion, never raise your voice. And as the years went by, it kind of got worse and worse. Like, I remember in my senior year in high school, like, I would go to school and barely say a couple of words, barely say any words. Just because, kind of felt to just sit on the desk, listen, like 7 hours a day, which is kind of crazy, looking back. I mean, you have some breaks here and there. I mean, like, the way that the education system as a whole is built is just a whole other conversation itself. But it's just, like, it's so disgusting to know that there's so many issues that we face as women. Because even when people talk about gender equality and all that, because, like, obviously when you bring it up, even I brought it up, like, maybe a bit more of a longer time ago to my dad, like, walk my gender equality. You've already got the vote. People say, like, there's gender equality, but it's like, if there is, why am I afraid to, like, go out at night? Why am I afraid of traveling alone by myself, Why am I afraid to go to a club by myself or with like a friend, Like, why am I afraid of those things? And it's like, it's just so blatantly obvious, because when people say, oh, not all men, but it's 97% of all women who have been harassed by someone of the male gender, or know someone who has been harassed, or even worse, murdered, raped, etc., hit, domestic physical abuse, emotional abuse. And obviously, like, I hate it because I don't want to mention it, but like every time we mention these topics, we also want to be like, man, women also do that to men, it's a small percentage, but it's worth mentioning. And it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, there are evil women out there as well, yeah, for sure, but there are just a disproportionate amount of men who have done evil things, or evil men, or whatever you want to say. and most victims in the world happen to be women. And most prisoners in the world happen to be men. It's just really disappointing because it's like, I feel like every generation hopes for better for the next one, and I definitely don't want to see generation of turning to what adolescence seems to be, and I definitely don't want them to just go on this crazy red pill way of living where they don't actually live fulfilled lives and they just live whatever some random person on the internet tells them to, which, yeah, okay, I'm also a random person on the internet, but I can at acknowledge it. And I've never told you how to live or given you instructions on who you are or who men are or who women are. And frankly, it's not about giving instructions or it's just like, you don't like, it's just so insane to me. Like, I don't know. It's just this like 1900s thinking versus this like modern 21st century thinking. Like it's kind of like collapse between each other because it's like, what are you talking about? You have to trick women into liking you. What do you mean like that? Oh, you know, I stabbed her 7 times, but you know, I didn't do anything wrong. She deserved it because she hurt my feelings. Like, shut the fuck up. Genuinely, just shut the fuck up. And the thing is, it's like, obviously it's like an actor. It's obviously it's like all fictional, resumed, but these cases do happen. They do happen. I think it's worth talking about. We're not talking about what this environment, this political division, and all of this political charged content does to people, because it just generally pushes people to one side or the other, and I think extremities are bad no matter what, and that in reality we should all just kind of meet at the center. Maybe try to consume both realms of information, but at the same time I would actually suggest to just not get politically charged like by left-wing or right-wing content, and just try to like consume as much neutral political content there is, aka just like not consuming news, even like with the news, right? Because you know, we know how like some certain TV channels or some you know, newspaper companies might portraying things either swing left or right. For example, I was going on my class on Israel, right? Some them like the Republican or like the right wing, whatever, they would be like, Israel has the right to defend itself, they would say, or whatever. And what happened in October, you know, like, you know, Hamas. And then on the left wing, it would be like, it's a genocide. It's a genocide. Which it is a genocide, by the way. But even though, like, it's like, I don't want it to make it a political thing because it's like obviously a genocide, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes like it's, you just have to call things what they are, and you know, like maybe okay, yeah, look at both perspectives, you know. So you know, like, because if I only consume the Israel has to defend, and I never actually consume the other part, then I want to know that in this specific case, this thing is true and this thing is not true. Or you can just try to argue that both things are true at the same time. Right. But there's just, but like, do more research, actually learn. And also don't want to talk about Palestine anymore because I'm not from Palestine. I just hate when people who are just not native to these countries and who are not educated enough on these topics open their mouth and give their like opinion, like as if anyone cares. But you know, as if whatever. Cause it's like, you know how many videos I've seen? I have like over 1,000 videos saved of people begging for you to watch a whole video on TikTok, so they would like raise some money to try and survive this genocide that the US has funded. Is it only the US? Not only the US, but the world has funded, that your billionaires and presidents and your politicians have funded, and all of these lives that have been lost for no fucking reason. Their blood is on their hands, and they're never, ever, but ever going to get punished. Which I know it seems like a whole other topic, jumping from one to the other, but we're talking about punishing children, or we're talking about crimes committed by minors, or just by, you know, one random citizen in the world versus, you know, war criminals. I don't see why. I just think we don't talk enough about the war criminals. I just generally don't think we do. Because it's like, think about that, right? Because we're like, one man, you know, rapes, or boy, whatever, kills a woman because of his own whatever, right? Apologies if I'm not handling this the concept or the topic of this video as well as I should be. I'll get better, I promise. Versus a man, politicians say, who has allowed for what this guy has done to one person in their side, in their city, whatever, to happen a bunch of times, right? Even because it's like, you know, like there were soldiers who were raping, you know, like we're raping. Obviously, in every war, in the war, genocide, whatever thing, like the bigger victims are always children and women, right? Because, you know, like another thing is that in adolescence, there's this scene where he says, I didn't touch her, you know, I didn't touch her, all the boys would have touched her, but I didn't, I'm better than them. Basically, that's what he said. Kind of exactly what he said. AKA, because I didn't rape her, I am better than them. I'm good, I'm okay. You know, because all the other guys are like worse, you know, like they would do that. I am a good guy, I wouldn't do that to you. Bare minimum. The fucking bare minimum. The just bare minimum of not violating someone. Do you want applause? Do you want flowers? And I'm not speaking to a sexual character with a 13-year-old, you know, whatever. I'm talking because these are actually people that grown men have said themselves, you know. And that just disgusts me, because that's their thought pattern, you know, that's the thing that they think while doing. So obviously, like, while you're doing such horrendous acts, there is this logic in your head, or this thought patterns are repeating to try to rationalize whatever you have done, right? And to try to like make sense of things, so you actually keep living. And you're like, you know, no, I did not do anything wrong. No, it's fine. She deserved it because and I'm a good person, and I'm a good person, and I deserve things, and I, you know, whatever. Cause like, I know like I'm merging a lot of topics, but I want to, because it's like, I remember when I went to another program abroad. Yeah, some guy mentioned like the trolley problem. I mentioned, I think, the Palestinian politicians, because it's like, because he was like, you know, oh, like, do we think it's like, or individual, like, oh, we're just, I was mentioning systems and how they like, you know, prevent people from having, or just lead people to like pretty horrible situations, right? Like, if you grow up like lower income, but both of your parents are like work, like maybe you don't even have a parent, maybe you have one mom, she even works like 3 jobs, and she's never even home, but you still kind of like, you know, afford to, let's say, and have such things, right? Or maybe you're just an orphan, right? And they just kind of kick you out, or they might just were not good, or, you know, you got raped, whatever, in the orphanage, just these things happen, and you ran away, and you have nothing, and so you just go and steal some food or whatever, and then you get charged, detained, go to like jail, let's say. I don't remember the difference between jail and prison, sorry. Jail is like 0 days, jail, prison I think it's like for a longer sometimes, yeah. Like, it's because like these situations are just push people to like make bad decisions just to survive. Because even when it comes to like selling legal substances, right, like if people's needs were actually met, and they wouldn't have to resort to such things, and if they were just born in more privilege, you know, those things would have never happened. And kind of acknowledging, you know, how their systems build on these things happening. Like, I'm gonna give you like example, because for example, I'm Romani, and the Romani people in Europe have actually faced a lot of discrimination and racism throughout, I don't want to say last 500, 600 years, let's say, because I'm not going to be like, oh, all of Europe's history. Well, yeah, basically. Like, if you don't know, like, Romani people actually live in segregated areas, poor areas, go to underfunded schools, horrible neighborhoods, underfunded neighborhoods with no opportunities, right? And they're just kind of forced there, right? So you think to yourself, you know, you're a Romani child, you get born to Romani parents, you go to this shitty school, everything is kind of chaotic. But let's say you persevere, you know, even though you're starving, you know, your parents are struggling to find a job, because they walk you through it. You're just a child, you're going to school, you're going with other Romani children, or you're going to a school that's mixed, right? And there you face racism because you're Romani, you're not like the other ones. You're disgusting, you're this, you're that, you're poor, you're a thief, you're this, you're a witch, you're a whatever, right? And you might even be pushed out of school because of bullying, right? But let's say it doesn't happen to you. Let's say you graduate. Let's say you finish high school, right? Okay, let's say you do that. Let's say you just want to get like a normal job that, you can't get a bachelor, you don't want to get it, or, you don't have enough money, there's no university in your area, in your city, or it's just way too expensive. What can you do? And you try to get a job and you get rejected. Because why would they choose you when they could choose someone that's not Romani, doesn't look like you, doesn't have the background, just because of blatantly racism, let's say. Wait, because you're like, Maria, what doesn't actually happen? But it does happen, okay? So you're like, okay, you're forced in the situation where like, okay, I can't get this job because, for anyone else, we're like, they'll tell me I don't have the skills I need. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I get those skills? And they're like, oh, maybe you need to like sign up for things or like go to class. But it's like, oh, but I can't afford to do that. Okay, well, what do I do now? Okay, let's say, it's fine. You try and you get like lowest, like any job you can, maybe like cleaning floors, etc. You try to make a living, but even that's not enough to actually live off, right? Because fucking inflation is fucking insane, and has always been insane, but now it's even more insane than ever. So you save up, maybe you go to university, but even there you actually still face persecution, you still face racism. Fuck it, you persevere, and there through all of your challenges. After it, same problem. Why would they choose you? Choose someone else. Or people are not gonna take you seriously enough if you mention that you're Romani, or just blatantly be racist towards you, or just don't know anything about Romani people and just have some disgusting stereotypes. And you're like, why the fuck are you mentioning all those things? Because like, Romani people are like the best example when it comes to portraying systemic racism. Because imagine these people who have been enslaved by either Europeans for 500 years, but they have erased that history, and this history is actually never even taught in schools. In contrast, it's actually taught that they're free spirits and they choose to be living in this godforsaken conditions instead of being pushed systematically by the governments. And start talking about the exploitation of Romani people, it just erases it, right? It just doesn't mention it. It doesn't mention how all of this things that have actually been done systemically, intentionally, are pushing this section of people, in most of the cases, to do things probably they want, or just whatever, are starving. I can't even talk about it because it's just pissing me off so much. I'm so tired of this. Okay, fine. I feel like we're getting to move topic. I'll cut this short. I feel like every single thing that I've talked about deserves its own video and its own analysis on the topic. And its own full research backed. I would even edit for you about these topics, give you the sources, give you the pictures. But yeah. This is it. Bye.